Hello, I'm Raina Morgan with iHealthTube. I'm visiting with Robert Kowalski, the author of The Blood Pressure Cure. Bob, what I would like to ask you to tell the viewers what the ideal blood pressure diet is.
Well, the good news is that it's foods that are absolutely delicious. Decades ago, a man named Ancel Keys, MD, PhD, extremely famous in my area of research, did what's called the 10-country study. And he basically took representative areas within 10 parts of the world and compared what they were doing in terms of diet with their incidence of heart disease resulting from elevated cholesterol, from elevated blood pressure. And those people who had a diet that was rich in certain foods and lacking in others had particularly low rates of heart disease. People especially from the Mediterranean. And hence we've gotten that term that's now become really a household term of the Mediterranean diet. The people in Italy, in Greece, throughout that whole region of the world that consume this very common approach to eating have a very low rate of heart disease as compared to people in other countries. Now, what is the Mediterranean diet? That's really what it comes down to. Well, again, the good news is that it's a delicious diet. It's not one that's restricted in fat. In fact, if anything, it tends to be a little bit on the high-fat side.
With the olive oil?
Olive oil, olives, avocados, nuts, virtually unlimited other than calories. Needless to say, if I were to have a cup of olive oil every day and drink it like coffee, I'd gain weight from all of those calories. In addition to the olive oil and those other high-fat items, and those are beneficial for the simple reason that unlike the problem fats that contain the saturated fatty acids and the trans fatty acids that are bad for the cholesterol level and bad for blood pressure, these all contain monounsaturated fats that have been shown to lower the level of LDL bad cholesterol, raise the level of the protective good cholesterol, and taken together with the other components of the diet, which are fish in abundance, providing the omega-3 fatty acids, lots of whole grains. Oddly enough, just that one thing, the whole grains, lowers the risk of heart disease, and they've sort of spun that out and found that it lowers both blood pressure and cholesterol.
Whole grains.
Whole grains.
Not processed grains.
Not processed. You won't find very much plain white bread in those regions. It's the whole grain kinds of foods. And also, not a lot, but some dairy, mostly in the form of cheese. And some people believe actually that cheese in itself has a protective effect, as evidenced by the French. The French eat a lot of cheese and yet have an extremely low rate of heart disease. So it's not perhaps just the red wine they're drinking, but also the cheese. But I think personally, stay on the safe side, keep the cheese in moderation, or best is to consume the low-fat cheese and get the benefits of the cheese without the saturated fat that's in it. So we have the fish. We have definitely some red meat. They love lamb in that part of the world, but the lamb that they would eat is relatively low-fat in the same way that we can choose the low-fat meats. Some dairy, mostly in the form of yogurt, which I hadn't mentioned, and the cheese. Then the fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
The fruits and vegetables. Why? What is the thing about it? Actually, we discussed this in another visit. It's the potassium that's in those fruits and vegetables that counterbalance any sodium that would be in the diet. And the body needs both the sodium and the potassium in balance. And all in all, this Mediterranean diet is associated with lowered blood pressure. So much so that when they did a clinical trial that they named DASH, it's the DASH study, stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, DASH.
All right.
by advising people who had elevated blood pressure to follow this dietary approach. And it doesn't mean that you're going to have recipes that are Greek and Italian and so forth every single day. As I show in the book, you can adapt these things to the recipes that you enjoy, the kinds of foods that you and your family enjoy. But doing so has been shown in the studies to lower blood pressure on a very significant level by about 6 to 8 points, just by doing that one little modification in diet.
So that's the ideal blood pressure?
That's the ideal blood pressure diet.
Okay, thank you for sharing that with us, Bob.
Bon appetit.